If you're registering with FMCSA for the first time, or if you are expanding your operations to offer additional services, you need to understand the requirements for operating authority. Conducting business without having the required operating authority or beyond the scope of the registration you do have can result in significant fines and penalties. In this video, we cover the types of operating authority for motor carriers domiciled in the U.S. If you are unsure if you need operating authority in addition to a U.S. DOT number for your specific operations, please watch the Operating Authority Overview for New Applicants video found here. A separate video will cover the types of operating authority for brokers and freight forwarders. Let's discuss the different types of motor carrier operating authority, keeping in mind that your particular operation may require more than one type of operating authority. As a reminder, operating authority registration is only required for non-exempt, for-hire transportation by motor vehicle for compensation in interstate commerce. If you transport property for the general public in exchange for payment, and none of the exemptions referenced in the Operating Authority Overview video from 49 United States Code Section 13506 apply, you are required to apply for and obtain Motor Carrier of Property, except household goods, operating authority. To better understand who needs Motor Carrier of Property operating authority, let's consider an example. Company X transports clothing and sporting goods from Company Y's distribution centers in Oklahoma to customers' homes, schools, or youth centers in Texas and Louisiana. Company X is paid by Company Y to transport and deliver the goods. Company X requires this motor carrier of property operating authority because it does not own the property being transported. It operates its vehicles across state lines to make the deliveries, and it receives compensation. Let's say instead of making deliveries from the distribution center in Oklahoma to other states, Company X was instead paid by Company Y to transport clothing and sporting goods from manufacturing facilities in Oklahoma to the distribution center in Oklahoma, where the goods would then continue in transportation to final destinations for delivery in Texas and Louisiana. In this example, all of Company X's transportation takes place in Oklahoma, but Company Y always intends that when the goods leave the manufacturing facility, they will only move through the distribution center as a part of a continuous movement toward their final destinations in Texas and Louisiana to fulfill orders. Company X would still be required to have Motor Carrier of Property operating authority because it does not own the property being transported. Company X is providing part of the transportation in a continuous interstate movement for delivery intended outside of Oklahoma, and Company X receives compensation for providing the transportation. If you only transport household goods for the general public in exchange for payment, you are required to have Motor Carrier of Household Goods operating authority. Moving companies are required to have this type of operating authority. Household goods include all personal effects and property used in a dwelling or home when the transportation of the property is arranged and paid for by the householder or the person who will live in the home. For example, if Company X receives compensation from an individual family for transporting chairs, couches, tables, and other personal belongings for a family moving from North Carolina to New Hampshire, then Company X requires this type of operating authority. Two key factors that determine whether passenger carriers are required to obtain operating authority are interstate commerce and for-hire transportation. If your business involves transporting passengers across state lines from one state to another, or to a location in the same state when the vehicle passes through another state, or between the United States and a U.S. territory or possession, or from one place in the United States through a foreign country to another place in the United States, or from the United States to another country, you are operating in interstate commerce. In some cases, transporting passengers entirely within one state may be interstate commerce if the passengers began or will conclude their trip outside the state. Anytime a passenger carrier receives compensation for transporting passengers, it is considered to be for hire transportation and would be required to obtain Motor Carrier of Passengers Operating Authority, regardless of the size of the vehicle you are operating. For additional information on understanding how operating authority regulations apply to passenger carriers, please visit our website at the link provided and download the Passenger Carrier Guidance Fact Sheet. Please note, depending upon your type of operation, you may not be required to have operating authority due to an exemption or exception. This includes transporting passengers only within a commercial zone, a geographical area in and around a municipality that is designated by regulation. Refer to 49 Code of Federal Regulations Part 372. Other exemptions may be based on transporting hotel guests between the hotel and airports, your own employees to work sites, or students for an educational or athletic purpose. In addition, some kinds of passenger transportation commonly performed by faith-based organizations, as well as youth or family camps that provide recreational activities, may be exempt from obtaining operating authority. FMCSA has published an interpretive rule to provide a better understanding and explain applicable exemptions of when a company transporting passengers is or is not required to have operating authority. Please visit our website at the link provided to view the interpretive rule and examples of real-world scenarios. Anyone applying for operating authority is required to maintain and provide proof of minimum levels of financial responsibility. Motor carriers of property, household goods, and passengers must maintain the required amounts of bodily injury and property damage, BIPD, insurance and environmental restoration coverage. The BIPD liability insurance coverage requirements are based upon the gross vehicle weight rating of the commercial vehicles operated and the type of commodities being transported. If you transport general freight in vehicles weighing under 10,001 pounds, the minimum amount of insurance required would be $300,000. If the vehicle has a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,001 pounds or more, it meets the definition for a commercial motor vehicle, and the minimum amount of BIPD required is $750,000. If you transport hazardous materials, the amount of insurance you are required to have is based on the class or division of the hazardous materials being transported, as well as how much is being carried. It can be either $1 million or $5 million. If you transport household goods, you are also required to maintain cargo insurance in the amount of $5,000 for loss of or damage to property carried on any one motor vehicle, or $10,000 for loss of or damage to, or aggregate of losses or damage to, property occurring at any one time and place. This is in addition to the amount of BIPD you are required to maintain. Motor carriers may qualify as a self-insurer against BIPD and cargo liability claims by applying for authority to self-insure. You must also provide evidence to the FMCSA to demonstrate the adequate tangible net worth that will cover any liability claims in the event of a loss, a sound self-insurance program, and an adequate safety program. For more information about self-insurance, see 49 Code of Federal Regulations 387.309 and 387.411. If you transport passengers, you are required to maintain $1.5 million in BIPD insurance if all of the vehicles you operate in your fleet have a seating capacity of 15 passengers, including the driver, or fewer. If any vehicle you operate has a seating capacity of 16 passengers, including the driver, or more, you are required to maintain $5 million in BIPD insurance. Please remember, all insurance companies and financial institutions must be approved by the Office of Registration and issued a filer account before they can submit these electronic filings on your behalf with FMCSA. FMCSA requires each applicant for operating authority to designate a process agent in each state that they operate in or through. You must have a BOC3 form on file submitted by a process agent or a blanket company. Blanket companies have process agents in every state and will electronically submit the form on your behalf. FMCSA maintains a list of approved blanket companies on the L&I public website. please visit the link shown here and select Blanket Companies. It is essential to understand the different types of motor carrier operating authority so you can identify which ones you need to apply for and, by extension, which financial responsibility requirements you must satisfy. You can review if FMCSA has received proof of insurance by going to the L&I public website or by going to the FMCSA registration page and clicking the USDOT status link. Remember, it is your responsibility to follow up with the insurance company to verify FMCSA has received and approved the required insurance forms. Failure to promptly submit the required forms and documentation will delay application processing and can result in the dismissal of the application and loss of the application fee. For more details on the Operating Authority application process, please watch the Operating Authority Overview for New Applicants video found here. If you require additional information, please contact us via email or chat by visiting ask.fmcsa.dot.gov. You may also call us at 800-832-5660. Thank you.